Definitely just going off the voice alone, this gets a 10 out of 10. Hey guys, it's Quana back again with another Her Real review. Hope you guys are doing awesome. So today I'm going to be giving you my review of the 2023 Disney live action remake of The Little Mermaid. This film stars Halle Bailey, Jonah Hauer-King, Melissa McCarthy, Javier Bardem, and features the voice work of Daveed Diggs, Awkwafina, and Jacob Tremblay. Now, this film was directed by Rob Marshall. If you're not familiar with the name, you probably are familiar with the work. He directed one of my all-time favorite films, Memoirs of a Geisha, but he is also a very popular theater director and film director, and he's directed several musical adaptations that were very well received, including the film adaptation of Chicago and the film adaptation of Into the Woods. So he's got a whole lot of street cred. And I'm going to be telling you my take of the film, which is an adaptation of the 1989 Disney classic, which is all about a little mermaid named Ariel who longs for life above the sea. When she falls in love with a prince, she trades her fins for legs and ventures out into a new world. But danger lurks, because if she cannot win the prince's love in 3 days, she will forever be cursed into the sea, and she'll never be able to come back on land again. This film was a huge part of my childhood, and I'm sure thousands and thousands and thousands of other fans, and there's a whole lot of nostalgia wrapped around this film. And so, as you might imagine, audiences have been very, very, very nervous about this live adaptation, but also some audiences have been extremely excited for it because of the casting of Halle Bailey as the Little Mermaid. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Halle Bailey, she is one half of the musical duo Chloe and Halle, featuring her sister Chloe Bailey, and they have been on the music scene for at least 8 or more years. I have been familiar with them for at least the last 6 or 7 years, and they are fantastic singers. But they're also actresses in their own right, and this is Halle's first starring role as the Little Mermaid. And not only does her voice capture everything around the voice of Ariel that you would want to hear, and captures that innocence and that sense of longing that was brought to the animation by Jodie Benson, but she brings Ariel to life in a phenomenal way and does a great job. Just on her voice alone, she gets a 10 out of 10, but the way she's able to emote with her eyes in this film is outstanding. You have Jonah Hauer-King, who stars as Prince Eric. He brings a lot more depth to the character of Eric. We also get to spend more time with Eric in this film, and I definitely think he does a good job. The chemistry between him and Halle is really, really good. You actually believe that they are falling in love, but you also believe that he is a man who longs for more out of life, and Ariel is just the girl to give that to him. Probably for me, the casting that I was most nervous about was Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Ursula is a larger than life villain and was brought to life in the animation by the incomparable Pat Carroll. I really, really wanted Queen Latifah, who starred in the ABC live musical performance as Ursula, and I really, really wanted her to be casted as Ursula. But I was pleasantly surprised by just how well Melissa McCarthy actually performs as Ursula. So much so that I could actually see her doing her own live action spinoff of Ursula if Disney so chose. Not necessarily saying that they have to, but I definitely could see it because she does a great job. Now, her musical abilities aren't as strong as Halle Bailey's, and so there are a lot of times in her performance where she's doing more talking than singing, but she definitely brings a lot of the fear factor of Ursula, which I thought was really good. Javier Bardem is great as King Triton, Ariel's father, brings a lot of warmth and authority and a little bit of a daddy, a little bit of zaddy there to the screen. And of course, you have the voice actors. You have Daveed Diggs as Sebastian. Daveed Diggs is a great performer, great rapper. He does a good job as Sebastian. And while I definitely liked him as Sebastian, I think it would have been just as good if Disney had chosen to cast a Caribbean voice actor, maybe even a tad bit better. But I also understand that Sebastian is one of the biggest characters in The Little Mermaid, and you want a fairly recognizable big name casted in that role. So I definitely understand the casting choice there, and he does a good job. Awkwafina was surprisingly good as Scuttle. And usually Awkwafina's voice, especially when she does her Awkwafina voice, is a little bit distracting to me and a little bit of an irritant, but it works for Scuttle because Scuttle is supposed to be this kind of irritatingly lovable character, and she does a great job of bringing Scuttle to life. Jacob Tremblay is probably like America's darling in terms of child actors today, and he definitely does a great job of bringing Flounder to life. Now, Flounder was always, for me, a little bit of an odd fish, mind the pun, from the original, because he is voiced to sound like a kid, much younger than Ariel, definitely has a crush on Ariel, and it's never quite clear as to why he's always tagging along with Ariel, because he definitely seems to be much younger than Ariel, just going off of the voice delivery from the animation. They kind of clean up some of the nuances around that, some of the elements where he has a crush on Ariel are removed from this, and I think it makes a lot of sense because that always kind of weirded me out a little bit. But Jacob Tremblay definitely did a great job as Flounder. In terms of the CGI, a lot of people are going to have criticisms around the CGI, particularly around the design of Sebastian and Flounder as the lead characters that are CGI. Now, in terms of the ocean elements, I personally thought that they were bright, beautiful, and breathtaking. I think a lot of the early trailers, it came across as extremely dim and not well lit at all. For me, I watched most of those trailers on my phone, and I did notice even before watching this film that when I watched the final trailers and I turned the brightness up, it actually was really, really bright and colorful, and that's how it looked in the theater. It wasn't dull to me at all. It actually was quite breathtaking. Some of the darker elements of the film, when Ariel's in the grotto and when Ariel is in Ursula's lair, can look a little murky. I think that just kind of is because of how deep into the sea they're supposed to be portrayed, and so you got a lot of shadowy elements as well as a lot of water elements going on there, and that's kind of to be expected. But I thought that the under the sea sequence was very bright and beautiful and breathtaking, and so for that, for me, that sequence alone got definitely an A. In terms of storyline and in terms of the film itself, the film is about 50 minutes longer than the original. Now, I definitely think that the longer runtime makes sense. Maybe not as much as they gave us here, but I definitely think it needed more time in terms of live action, because there are things that can be animated much quicker than that can be performed and take longer to be performed and to actually demonstrate those actions. And also they gave us more story here, a lot more backstory for Eric, even more backstory for Ariel and for her relationship with her father. And so for that, I actually liked those elements. There's more romance here. I actually think that this film is going to have a great rewatchability for adult viewers, especially for those who love period pieces and romances, because it definitely had a lot of that feeling to it. But for kids, I will say that my kids got a little bit antsy during like the second act of the film because of that longer runtime. I definitely think that Disney probably should have made the decision to at least shave off about 25 minutes of the film, still giving it a longer runtime, but making it a little bit more palatable for child audiences. But I definitely think for me, this film has much more rewatchability to my day-to-day life than the animated. I might watch the animated once a year, but I could definitely see myself binge watching this, especially when I get into like my Bridgerton or my romance kind of craves and I start binge watching Bridgerton again and again. I could see myself clicking on this and watching this in lieu of that. And so for that, I think some of those decisions actually work really, really well. Overall, guys, I think this film was really, really good. It's one of my favorites of the live action remakes, especially the ones that are kind of more one-to-one remakes of the animations. If you don't know what I mean when I talk about that, definitely check out my my live that I talked about the Disney live actions and also the decisions behind some of those live actions, because I break down some of the decisions between kind of like the reimaginings versus the remakes. And this is definitely more of a remake, though they add a lot of elements to this. There are some new songs here, new depth of characters, so it does feel like a fresher version of the film. But it doesn't take away from, I think, watching the animated classic. The animated will always be a classic because it was literally the film that revitalized the Disney animation phase. It is the birth of the Disney Renaissance era. And so for that, it will always play an important part in the iconography of Disney. But I definitely think that this film does a great job, and I definitely think there's room for both of these films. Probably as it pertains to live actions, it's definitely in my top 3 of the remakes, and that I think says a lot. Halle Bailey, I will say it again and again, is 10 for 10, the best Ariel that we could have hoped for. She is everything, and I think even without considering like the race swapping of the characters, she just is the embodiment of this character. I definitely think they couldn't have asked for a better Ariel. This movie for me got an A-, which I definitely think, you know, there were some things, some flaws here and there that I would have liked. For my husband who saw it, he gave it a 7 out of 10. He really likes the song Les Poissons, and that song was cut from this adaptation. So for fans of that song, just be forewarned that that song does not appear. If that is like your favorite sequence, you are probably going to be disappointed. But for me, it wasn't, and so I didn't miss it that much. For my 3 kids, one of my kids loved it. He said, "I liked it, Mommy." "No, I loved it, Mommy." For one of my other kids, he was like, "It was okay for a girl movie. I didn't like Flounder, but he liked everything else." He said it got a B for him. And for my little girl, she said she would give it a 7 out of 10. She didn't like Flounder's animation, but she liked elements of the film. But she's also not into the princess thing. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. I definitely think though, by and large, our family enjoyed this outing at the movie theater, and I really enjoyed it. I will definitely be watching The Little Mermaid again and again. It fulfilled something for the little girl in me. But let me know down below in the comments if you have seen The Little Mermaid and did you enjoy it. I'm going to probably try to go see it in 4DX sometime this week or next week. And if you've never tried 4DX, I'll definitely make sure that I bring you guys a review of that experience, because that's going to be something new for me. And I'll definitely let you guys know what I think about the 4DX experience. But I'm also going to be making a video about 10 things you might have missed in The Little Mermaid. So definitely be on the lookout for that video. And as always, guys, thank you so much for joining me. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and comment down below for the algorithm. And I'll see you guys next time. Toodles!